before we start. Okay, started. So welcome, thanks for coming, and I think Sharon will introduce herself and her partners in crime, but just say thanks for everyone for joining the call. The aim of today's session is to find out more information about the independent training providers and their offer in Cornwall, particularly focusing around apprenticeships and all things linked to them. So thanks very much to Sharon, Andrew and John for joining us today.
Lovely, thank you, Carrie, and welcome everybody. And we did this session, I think last month, for the Heart of the Southwest, and it was very well received. So I hope that you will find it really interesting this afternoon. As Carrie said, I'm Sharon Robbie. I'm the Managing Director of the Devon and Cornwall Training Provider Network, and I represent more than 55 training providers that operate across Devon and Cornwall. That includes FE colleges, universities and independent training providers, and that's what we're really here to talk about today, is that ITP piece. Our training providers offer everything from entry level through to degree level, and one of the things that the network does is to raise awareness on routes into employment, into further education and into higher education. A lot of stakeholder engagement. I've got my finger in lots of different pies, and hence me not getting much sleep. And I'm very, very much engaged with that post-16 training, skills and education piece. Do a lot around school engagement. Really important for us to be engaged with the schools and to be able to ensure that young people understand and are made aware of all the opportunities that are available to them. But not just our young people, careers leaders, governors, parents, carers, and those key influencers. And a huge part of my job is around lobbying. So lobbying central government to gain more funding here for the Southwest, to lobby on behalf of my training provider network members, two of whom are on the call today. I have John Allen from Train for All and Drew Toombs from the Focus Training Group, both independent training providers, both members of the Devon and Cornwall Training Provider Network, and you'll hear from them later on this afternoon. So I wanted just to give you a really quick whiz through, and you may know some of this stuff, and if you do, apologies, but I think it's always good to just take a look at what's available out there for young people. And I wanted just to touch on traineeships, and we've got a huge government push at the moment with loads of money being allocated to traineeships. Now, traineeships are basically a structured work placement. They prepare young people for work. They're aimed at 16 to 24-year-olds. They minimum duration of 6 weeks and a maximum of 12 months, but most of them end way before the 12 months. And the young person would have to undertake 70 hours per week work experience, or the maximum of 240 hours for those who claim benefits. English and maths are studied if no level 2 already held. The main difference between a traineeship and an apprenticeship is that no salary is paid, but lunch and travel costs can be met by an employer. And they can act as a springboard into an apprenticeship, a bit of like try before you buy. So an employer or the young person could see what the employer can see what the young person's like, the young person can see what a job role or that employer is particularly like. But one of the things to say that not all providers offer traineeships. There's a link there that would take you through to my website, which shows where the current traineeships are. And that link also takes you through to the government page, which shows who offers traineeships and in what areas. Now, traineeships have been fairly generic, but we're seeing more sectoral traineeships being offered at this moment in time. And if we've got young people who are not quite ready for an apprenticeship, a traineeship, as I say, is an absolute fantastic way to springboard them into an apprenticeship. So just something to consider in terms of traineeships if you weren't sure what they were about. We might see, by the way, with the end of Kickstart, more young people looking at traineeships, because we know that Kickstart ended on the 31st of March. So here, with the government putting lots of money into traineeships, we could see people going from Kickstart into traineeship and then progression onto an apprenticeship, which is what we should always be looking to do there. So just a really quick whiz through about apprenticeships. It's a real job. You gain an industry recognised qualification. Young person, or sorry, an apprentice, because there's no upper age limit for an apprentice. So 16 is the minimum, all the way up to whatever, and they study or they follow an employer-led standard. So as I say, 16 plus, no upper age limit, and the salary that an apprentice earns is an apprentice national minimum wage. But many of our employers pay far more than that. The current level, it went up on the 1st of April, is now £4.81 an hour. And I'm going to show you on the next slide how different employers either pay more or they pay that rate. If an apprentice as a care leaver, there is a bursary to support them, and that's £1,000 that goes direct to the learner, and that's something that's really key that we share that information, that people are aware that care leavers, there is that bursary there to support them. There are a range of employer incentives, although the additional incentives that the government offered when we're in the midst of the pandemic have been removed. So the £1,000 for taking on a 16 to 18-year-old, or for a young person who has an EHCP up to the age of 24 is £1,000. That's still there, and as I say, that bursary. There are a range of levels through to degree level. And at this current moment in time, we've got more than 100 vacancies across Cornwall. Cathy Kessel shares loads of updates in terms of those vacancies. She does a fantastic job sending those out across the patch. You know, as I said, there's more than 100 vacancies. Plymouth at the moment, we've got something like 380, and we are really seeing difficulty in getting young people to consider an apprenticeship. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. One of the main reasons is a lack of confidence, and that's due to the pandemic. So lots of young people decided to stay on at school or to go to college to take a study programme because they felt it was the safer option. However, with us opening up far more, the pandemic, and us learning how to live with the pandemic, we're starting to see apprenticeship starts to rise again. And I've just been looking at some data now. We're starting to see an increase. So what sort of jobs are out there? So I went and had a look on the Find an Apprenticeship website, and these are some of the ones that I found that are currently in scope. Closing date April, May. You can see from some of the salaries that they pay more than the national minimum wage, apprentice national minimum wage of 481. And there's also some quite interesting jobs there. But there are also jobs there that you would expect for Cornwall, you know, the housekeeping, you know, in the hospitality industry, engineering, and the agriculture. But there's also a purchasing, there's also a design technician, and the accountancy one at level 7, which is obviously a degree level apprenticeship. So these are fantastic opportunities for people who are living in Cornwall to actually stay in Cornwall, and for us to actually work on being able to support them to, you know, so that we retain the talent within the duchy. So really important that we make people aware of the vacancies and the opportunities that are available. As I say, Cathy Castle does a fantastic job in doing that. Not all the vacancies that are available actually are on the Find an Apprenticeship site, and in some cases employers put them onto just their site and not onto the government site. So the whole point of today was all about independent training providers, also known as ITPs. And this slide, what do they do? Who are they? And it's really, you know, I'd be really quite interested, you know, and I can't actually see people now, Carrie, so you'll have to let me know, did you all know that there was such a thing as an ITP? You know, are people saying, shaking their heads, nodding their heads? Put it in the chat if you like. Did you know the term ITP? Had you heard the term ITP? And do you know what they do? So that's the first question. So just to give you a bit of background there, independent training providers, they provide vocational education and training to young people and adults. And as I said, they are sometimes referred to as independent learning providers or private training providers. But the general name is independent training provider or ITP. They play a huge role as part of the FE sector, training, teaching and developing skills of individuals right across the country, and these obviously to support social mobility and economic productivity. So they play a massive role. They are distinct from other types of FE providers such as colleges, because they're not directly controlled or run by the state. They are independent and they often have a strong commercial presence. So they may well offer apprenticeships, traineeships, study programs, but they also offer very, very strong commercial offer as well. But their work is funded and regulated by government agencies such as the ESFA and Ofsted in the same way as the rest of the sector. So in the same way that an FE college is governed, the governance, an ITP would be the same. Most ITPs are companies, both not-for-profit and for-profit, and some operate across the third sector, and there are a number of them who operate across Cornwall. ITPs they are so diverse, and you can find ITPs located behind or above high streets or in business parks and industrial estates in most towns and cities, and as I say, a number operating across Cornwall. Learning and training is done in classrooms, on the ITP's premises, and in the workplace, or usually a mix of both. And one of the things to say about ITPs is that a number of them have very strong links with industry, and they have some fantastic facilities in terms of industry standard facilities, and they also engage with industry to support industry coming in to teach. So this slide exactly, what do they actually do? Well, they do everything that you'd expect them to do. Apprenticeships, employability skills. They offer careers education, advice and guidance. They run skills boot camps. They're part of they undertake the Prevent agenda. They have work and health programs. They offer English and maths. All of these things are offered by ITPs. So this is where people get a bit confused and they go, oh, I didn't realise an ITP, an independent provider, offered this. I thought they just ran first aid courses or health and safety courses. No, they do exactly the same as their FE college counterparts. And so that is a range, on offer, a range of provision to those aged 16 plus. As I said, that provision is Ofsted inspected, it's government funded at times, and it's auditable. They have the same rules and governance applied to them as an FE college, and they have to have the same safeguarding and health and safety policies in place. They have learner records, assessments and reviews, all the same. In fact, they have incredibly broad provision. But as I say, they don't necessarily offer all of these, and they may specialise in apprenticeships or adult education. It's something to consider. But ITPs have got a huge breadth of offer. So this is always very interesting when we tell people this. ITPs are by far and away the most numerous type of organisation in the FE sector. So if you look at the Devon and Cornwall Training Provider Network, I have 55 members. And of those 55 members, only 6 are FE colleges. So I have Truro and Penwith, I have Cornwall College, and then I have the 4 Devon colleges. The rest of the providers, I better rephrase that, because I have Exeter University and Plymouth University and Marjohn's University, but all the rest are independent training providers. So as you can see from this slide, as of February of last year, there were more than 1,200 active ITPs on the government's register. And on the register of apprenticeship training providers, 77% of the organisations on the register of apprenticeship training providers are ITPs. To be on the register of apprenticeship training providers allows you to deliver apprenticeships. You cannot offer an apprenticeship unless you're on the register. Often known as ROAP or ROTAP, 77% are ITPs, and more apprenticeships are delivered in ITPs than in any other FE setting. Really important that people are aware of that. And this, I think, shows it really, really clearly on this slide. So you can see here these are the types of further education. So post 16, and you can see by far and away 67% is independent training providers. Colleges make up 12%. So see, these are some of the independent training providers who are members of the Devon and Cornwall Training Provider Network, and these guys all work across Cornwall. You can go to follow the link, and that will take you to the Devon and Cornwall Training Provider Network website page for our members, and where you'll be able to click on each of their individual links and go and read more about them. But you can see there's a real breadth here across Cornwall with regards to the independent sector. So what is the difference? Well, it's an alternative environment. College, independent training providers, One is not better than the other. They are just different options. And one of the things that I try to say is the independent training provider, it's perhaps smaller. It may not be so intimidating for a learner. They may well offer specialised provision. They're smaller cohorts. They may be located in a place which is much easier to get to for a learner. And they have excellent employer and industry contacts. They usually have industry standard facilities, and I know that both Drew and John, who are going to be talking to you later, will show you some of the stuff that they have within their particular centres, and they have industry experienced staff. And so it's really not about saying one is better than the other. And before the session started this afternoon, that's one of the things that we were talking about. It's not about saying ITPs are better than FE colleges or that FE colleges are better than ITPs. They both have a role to play in supporting the educating and the skilling, upskilling and training of people post 16 across the county. So for me, the real difference is it's an alternative environment. And some people feel much more comfortable in that environment. The other thing to just to touch on again is ITPs are known for their close working with employers. They have excellent relationships with the SMEs, and the FE colleges work really well with the levy paying employers and have great SME engagement. But our ITPs really do know their SME market and work very, very closely, not just with the levy payers, but with the SMEs. You can see the stat there, 85% of employers would recommend using an ITP to another employer. And in total, ITPs work with more than 300,000 employers. It's really interesting, that bit there, 50%, more than 50% of learners that achieved their functional skills level 2 qualification attended an ITP. That's the highest percentage of any learning environment. So that's something that's really, really positive to see. We get asked about quality all the time. So if I go to an independent provider, is it the same quality? Absolutely. And you can see from that stuff that 80% would judge good or outstanding at their latest inspection by Ofsted. That was at February of last year, compared to 74%. So it's gone up. We'll get another stat for this year. And I think for us as a training provider network, you know, all our providers, whether they're independent training providers or FE colleges, have to be good or outstanding to be members of our network, and quality is absolutely key. Independent providers, as I said, all the way through this presentation, absolutely are bound by the same rules, governance, quality as the FE as an FE college. So there's just a few stats there with regards to ITPs. Interestingly, 1.75 million adults in education and training in England, and 30% of them go to an ITP. It's huge, absolutely huge. And the other interesting thing is that study programs. So a lot of young people age 16 go off to college and to take a study program. We've seen a real increase in that due to the COVID and young people going off to college, as I said, and doing that study program as they're seeing it as a safer option. Interestingly, that ITPs, 115 ITPs, also offering study programs to nearly 35,000 learners. So we're seeing more ITPs offering study programs now as well. So really, it was my piece to you was about independent training providers are out there. They can support learners, they can support businesses, but it's not about whether college, you know, whether ITPs are better than colleges or colleges are better than ITPs. It's about choice. It's about putting the learner first and making sure that they can learn, that they feel comfortable in an environment where they're going to flourish, where they're going to be supported. And as I said, for some people, an ITP is not the place to be. They can sometimes be a bit of an older environment in which to be studying, or a college. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass you over to Drew Toombs from the Focus Training Group. Now, Drew is fantastic. He spoke at our last event that we had, and absolutely fantastic overview about independent training provider. Focus Training Group, been going a long time. They've got sites across the Southwest, and I believe that Drew has got with him one of their level 3 electrical apprentices, Justin Strike. He's a 19+ learner, and I think Justin's also going to give us a few words with regards to what it's been like for him studying at an ITP such as focus training. So Drew, I'm going to pass over to you, and you just let me know when you would like me to press the button for the next slide.
You're on
Thank you,
mute.
Sharon. Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all? Good. It's always a little bit strange doing it this way because everyone's on mute and you never get any feedback, but you still do that bit of your patter asking how everyone is. So big thumbs up would be good. Some people are there. Yeah, that's nice. There we go. So yeah, welcome. My name's Drew. I work for the Focus Training Group. I'm currently sat in our training centre in Redruth, chatting to you today. It's a lovely centre just off Wilson Way, located really well to some really great schools. We also have Cornwall College just down the road from us, which we work really closely with. And a lot of people always kind of think that's a little bit strange, but as Sharon has said throughout the presentation, and I'm sure later on you'll hear that we all work together, okay? Because at the end of it, what we're trying to do is find the right result for the person. The learner is the thing that's the most important thing at the end of the day, and making sure we get the right fit for them. So who's Focus Training? Okay, well, Focus Training, we're an independent training provider, which you've heard lots about today. We're actually, we were established in 1999, so that's making us 23 years old this year. And initially we started off with just the one training centre in Plymouth. We've now got 5 training centres throughout the southwest, from Bristol down to where I am today in Redruth. Just recently, we've just increased, doubled our floor space in our Redruth Training Centre. So that's another fantastic investment by our board of directors that are reinvesting in us, and just making us grow and keep offering quality training all the way through. Could I have the next slide, please, Sharon? Maybe not. I'll just keep going. What we've got with our tutors, the teachers actually teach all of our students. They're actually relevant. They come from the relevant trades. So one of the chaps I got with me today, he's actually Matt Julian's one of our tutors. He started off his life as an apprentice through the Focus Training Group. He's gone off and had a career as an electrician, but always had a kind of an inkling that he wanted to come back to some type of teaching. So he's been away and done 10, 15 years as an electrician, and now he's come back and done his education and award, so he can now teach. So it's quite funny today how I've got Matt that's been through everything and he's a tutor and he's back teaching today. And we've got Justin that will speak to you in a bit as well and talk to you about the training provision that he's going and the journey he's been on, which is always great because it's always better when you hear it from those guys direct rather than myself telling you all the good things. So it's always please feel free to ask him questions. But all of our guys throughout the trades are, they've got relevant experience. It's not just someone like me just reading it and making it up out of Google. They are experienced guys. And what we actually do, we've got some of our trade guys. We've got them. We've inherited all of our gas guys are like from British Gas. We've got electricians from Western Power. We've had managers that offer our management training, accountants. There's some of them are still practicing. They come in and do a teaching part-time. So the best thing for our students is they're still keeping up to date with all the relevant updates and all the new things that are happening out on the site. So you get real good relevance teaching when they come along to us. Can I have the next slide, please? So as Sharon said earlier, we're governed exactly as schools and colleges, all FE and Ofsted and the ESFA that supply all the funding for us. We're very happy. We've got an Ofsted rating of good. We've been consistently good over the last 3 inspections we've had, which we're very happy with. It shows we're delivering a consistent service. And as Sharon said there in the background, for a small ITP, because we are relatively small compared to some of the other ones out there, we've actually now got over 605 apprentices currently on programme with us, which is really good for the size of us. With 5 depots, to be in the southwest, to have 605 apprentices is absolutely fantastic. We offer a range of apprenticeships that can range from 12 months up to 3.5 years. It all depends which one they come on to. And that's it. Yeah, that's brilliant. Can I have the next slide on that one, please? So the big benefits of the apprenticeship is that's what we're all about. The biggest one they always like to learn about, so they can earn a salary straight away. They're learning on the job. They're building up their skills and experience all the way through. They're mastering new skills, and actually it's quite rewarding. Some of the youngsters, well, a lot of the youngsters actually, when they go into the workplace, they're unaware of the skills they can bring to a company. They can enhance things, they can bring new ideas into the company. So it's not just about them learning. Actually, employers can actually learn off the youngsters, how things are happening, which the way things are moving, and just a fresher way of looking at working these days. When a youngster actually applies to the apprenticeship service, one of my guys, I have an employment officer that will actually sit down and meet with them and talk them through the benefits of an apprenticeship. What's it all about? Who focused training are, because as Sharon quite rightly said, sometimes an independent training provider is not the right fit for somebody. So we actually introduce focused training, and we do a big thing around IAG, which is independent advice and guidance with them. So we sit them down to actually make sure this is something they want to do, because one of the biggest trades we do is electrician and gas, and with the amount of people we meet that come through the door, and they've been told by the parents they have to be an electrician or a gas fitter because they have to have a trade, and then when you actually sit down with them, they don't. They want to go be a florist or something else. So it's actually having that conversation one-to-one with them and finding out exactly what they definitely want to do. And if it's not, and if we offer it and someone else offers it, it's making them aware of what provision is out there for them. We always say, come and meet focused training. We've recently had an open day where people could come in and have a go at being an electrician and having a gas fitting course. Come in and spend the day with us. Go out in the workshop with your tutors and just have a real good go. But sometimes when they walk in the door, Sharon said earlier, it doesn't feel right and the college feels right for them. That's not a problem. Let's signpost you off and let's give you details of what else is out there. The more people they go out and see and visit, the more of a good feeling they're going to get for an apprenticeship. Is it the right time for them to have an apprenticeship? So that's what I like about IAG. It's really in there, embedding it straight away from the first meeting, making sure it's the right decision, it's for them, and not somebody telling them they have to come into certain trades. We offer a range of apprenticeships. So we offer anything from accountancy, that's level 4, level 3, to customer service, business admin. We do care, level 2, level 3. But our biggest sector that we mainly do in the Cornwall, or actually throughout all our centres, is the fire and security trade. So that's somebody that wants to do fire alarms, designing security systems. And the electrical, we do the level 3 electrical apprenticeship and the gas apprenticeship. That's our main strong ones. The other ones, our professional side, actually feed in off that. So the big trade ones, you can say they're 3 to 3.5 years. And as I said earlier, they are taught by somebody that is relevant from the trade. Okay, so all our people are gas safe registered, the tutors, and they've come from, the majority of them come from British Gas, ex-employees. But also on our electrical side, they're all practicing electricians. So someone like Matt that's in here with me today, he was a practicing electrician. He came up through the ranks. His last one, he was at Devon and Cornwall Housing, and decided he wanted to come and have a go at teaching. So came and joined us, and now he's actually teaching the trade as well as still working and actually doing some site assessments and everything out there at the moment, which is really good. It's really relevant. The youngsters are actually getting real hand experience off the guys that are meeting them. So that's our apprenticeship provision. That's what we offer. We have in the past done traineeships, and it's something we're looking at working into at the minute. We don't currently offer them, but it's something we're thinking of bringing out, because Sharon has quite rightly said sometimes it's nice to offer support and guidance to somebody that possibly may not be ready for an apprenticeship. A traineeship is a real good way of getting them to have a feel for it. And it also gives them chance to actually sample the sector. So they might come in and say, Drew, I want to be an electrician. They go through everything, they're really happy, but then they actually go out on site and try the job, and it's not for them. A traineeship will actually help them do that. Let's get your hands on experience, have a look at stuff before you have a go. So it's the old train try before you buy type thing. As you can see, the photos down there, that is photos of our Red Roof Centre where I'm sat with you today. The picture on the right hand side, that is our workshop where our apprentices will spend the majority of the time. That's where they go in there. Now, when they come into us, it's fully kitted out with tools, everything. They don't have to supply anything. They just have to turn up to college on the day with a PPE kit. And as you can see on the smaller pictures over there, that's our classrooms. Our classrooms, the most we have in a class is 14. That's because the size of the building we are, but also when you're actually teaching to 14, especially on the trade sides, we can find it more, the youngsters learn a little bit more by being more engaging. When we're out in the practical workshop as well, it's really hands-on, because what we tend to do is put them into pairs. So we're having 7 pairs from there. So the tutor's actually spending some real good quality time with them moving around when there's 7 pairs out there and 14 in the classroom. One of the last few things, when they come into us, we keep them together. So they do year 1, year 2, year 3 together. And we've seen some fantastic friendships develop from this. We've actually seen some businesses grow from this, where people have finished their apprenticeship and actually gone off into business together. And then a couple of years down the line, they've come back to us to reinvest and take an apprentice on. So that is a whistle tour around the Focus Training Group. We're as you can see on the screen, some of the people where we work with a whole range from people like your Cornwall Housing, up to your Kears, your Lawn Stewarts, Walden Fire and Security. So we deal with some big levy paying people, but also deal with some SMEs that come in with us. So we've got a real broad range of who we work with. We don't just work with commercial or domestic, it's a real blend of everyone that we work with. So our learners or people that come in and get a good picture of everything that's going on. So what I'll do, if it's okay with you guys, what I'd like to do is just get Justin, get him to come in, get him to have a chat with you, just a quick chat. I don't know if Sharon's going to ask him some questions about why he's come over to us, or if you just want him to chat to you, Sharon, which way you want to do it.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
So over to Justin.
Here he comes. You ready? Come and have a seat. Careful that wine. There you go.
Hiya.
Hello there, Justin. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. And yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And I understand you're a level 3 electrical apprentice.
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay. So which employer do you work with, Justin?
So my employer is called Cornwall Electrical Contractors. I've worked for them for 2 years now, because various problems with my old employer that I won't go into now. But
okay.
But yeah, so I've worked for them for 2 years. Yeah, and I'm loving it.
So how much longer have you got to go?
Well, I've got all of my coursework and everything like that done. So now it's just me. I've got to finish my portfolio basically. So hopefully I should be done by September time, and then I'll be put in for my final exam kind of thing. And yeah, hopefully not too long, a few months.
So one of the things that we were interested in hearing about is why a young person, or what is it like for you to study at the Focus Training? So you're based in Red Roof there today?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So that's not. Is it easy for you to get to? Is it near to where you live?
Yeah, so it's a 20-minute drive for me, which it's not a problem at all, because my employers, they're just down the road, to be honest. So yeah, it's not a problem at all. I've got my van. So it's fine to get to. It's good location.
And how have you find the sort of like the environment within Focus Training in terms of the facilities and the teaching staff?
Yeah, so the facilities, they're great. We've got a nice big workshop. We've got all the tools you need. I mean, I've got my own tools, so I don't use them. But yeah, if you don't have any tools, they've got everything you need to kind of get on with your job and stuff like that. And I mean, I would say the atmosphere it's great, because it's not too kind of it's very like relaxed, but at the same time, obviously, with me anyway, where if I'm more relaxed, I kind of get into the subjects more, and I kind of just feel more like you can talk about things. You can kind of just get into the whole like course more, if that makes sense.
Do you feel supported there?
Yes. So I've had problems in the past, as I said, with my employers and stuff like that, which again I won't go into now. But yeah, they've been very supportive all of the time, kind of thing. If I've had any issues, I can talk to them, and I know if I want to say something to them that I want to keep in confidence, or I just want to kind of let myself brew and think about it first before I make any decisions or anything. And they've always been fine, and it's always been kind of up to me how I want to go about things. They've never been kind of like, no, you have to do this, you have to do it. It's been completely about what I'm comfortable with. And yeah, so it's, yeah, great.
So what's your long-term plans then when you qualify?
So when I qualify, I want to get like a few more years experience in the industry, and then I've actually got a mate that's gone on his own doing plumbing. So me and him, I think, are gonna hopefully, yeah, start up a business and yeah, go from there.
And stay in Cornwall?
Yes, yeah.
Because
So yeah,
we need electricians in Cornwall, don't we?
yeah. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not. I don't want to move to a city or anything like that. I like it down here. It's nice. It's quiet, and to be honest, there's still so much work about. It's not like your opportunities are limited down here, because perhaps, as you said, there aren't as many electricians to go around. So I find that the opportunities down here will be just as good as if I moved to a city or something like that. I mean, the money might be better in a city, but as I said, I love it down here, and
You can't go surfing though in the city, can you?
No, exactly. And to be honest, I live in Porthleven, so I probably should have done more surfing than I actually do, but I've been on a surfboard about once, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Once more than me.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask you, when you were at school, which school did you go to?
So I went to Helston Community College.
So you you were at Helston, and then
Yeah.
you've ended up in a focus training group.
Yeah.
And what was was there a huge transition for you, the environment in going into an independent training provider?
I mean, so essentially, when I actually was speaking to my career advisor at school, I didn't want to go to uni or anything like that. So we decided it was best for me. I wanted to do something with my hands, kind of thing. And I actually, the only options that my career advisor knew about, and that like I'd looked it was only quite a big college down the road, and so I went there for a couple of years and did plumbing. And then yeah, for what reason
It wasn't for you.
yeah, basically. And yeah, so now I'm here. I mean, it's just the kind of, maybe not the stuff that they're kind of obligated to do, but I mean, my teacher's always gone above and beyond, kind of thing. I know if I've ever needed to stay behind and wasn't sure on something, he would always stay behind on his own accord, kind of thing. And if I'm at work or something like that, and sometimes my boss is a little unforgiving, so I'd like to give my tutor a call first on a question, just yeah. And he's been great. He always picks up the phone if he can, but if not, I'll leave a message and he'll always get back to me. And it's kind of the personalized side of it. It's not like you turn up to college. I go to college on a Wednesday, and it's not like I turn up on a Wednesday and they forget about you till next Wednesday, if that makes sense. It's kind of, they're always thinking about you and doing everything they can to help.
Well, that is really lovely to hear, and I know, and I do know, that the colleges and ITPs, both of them, both types of organisation, support their learners 100%.
Yes.
And I just think that some learners flourish in a different environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it seems that you certainly have flourished at focus training, because your presentation skills, your communication skills are excellent. You're doing a really fab job here talking to me. We haven't met before, and you've come across really well, very articulate, very confident. And actually what comes across is that you really are enjoying your studying, that you're really enjoying learning your trade. Yes. And that you're benefiting from this really sort of like the close pastoral care that focus training are giving you.
It just, I just feel comfortable. I know for a fact that as I said before, if I've got any problems, if I've got any issues, they will be sorted out. It's not like, as I said, I turn up on a Wednesday and then they'll forget about me or anything. It's any time in the week. If I've ever got any problems or anything, I know for a fact that they'll help me come to the kind of best conclusion and sort things out. So yeah, it's just nice feeling comfortable. I'd say it's good.
Well, Justin, I would just like to say from myself and from everybody on this call, fantastic, really, really good. Thank you. I'm giving you a little clap there because I
It's
think
nice to hear.
you did an amazing job there.
Thank you.
And I know that everybody on the call will be, you know, I can see that some people have put some stuff in the chat. Really impressed with you there. I'd like to wish you all the very best in your studies. I know that you're going to go absolutely. You're going to be a bright spark, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, I try.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
thank
Well,
you. That's
you
really
know,
nice to hear.
well, we appreciate you joining us this
Excellent.
afternoon. And as I say, fantastic. Well done. Really good job.
you.
And could you just pass us back to Drew, please? Drew,
course I
please.
can.
Thank you.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Justin.
Here. Thanks, Justin.
Wow.
There you go. That's one of our apprentices. I think it
What a
kind of backs
star.
up everything we were saying. As you say, he is a star. And he was a young man that wasn't afraid to change direction. And that's where he did, where he came in and spoke to us, and that's where like the IAG and everything kicks in.
Yeah,
to make sure
absolutely.
to make sure the electrical was the right thing for him.
Yeah, well, Drew, absolutely sterling work there with Justin. Thank you so much. We've got your last slide on here now, which obviously gives the information to those on the call, all the different sites and the contact details if they're interested in contacting Focus Training after this. But just to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. There may well be some chat or some questions at the end, so we'll finish here for now, and then hopefully we'll get some feedback at the end of the session. But thank you very much for your input this afternoon.
Thanks, guys. I'll put myself on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. So that was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I always feel inspired when I hear from young people about their apprenticeship and what they're doing. Absolutely, young people get a bit of a bad press sometimes, and it just goes to show we've got so much you know, to be grateful for with our young people. We do have young people who are enthusiastic and passionate and creative, and we really do need to support them and keep them here in the Southwest. We don't want them going off to those cities, do we? But there we go. So I'm now going to introduce you to our next independent training provider. That's John Allen, who is the CEO of Train for All. Now, John works really hard across the Duchy, and I've been on a number of calls with him recently where he's been presenting. So, John, over to you and an overview on Train for All.
Okay, thank you for the introduction there, Sharon. And well, that's going to be a hard act to follow, isn't it? Following Justin, what a lad! So much passion and enthusiasm, as you all alluded to. And that's what it makes it really rewarding, and that people like Justin, that's what we're all here for, ostensibly. We want to see those young people flourish in whatever way and carry out whatever pathway to get there. So yeah, as Sharon said, I'm the CEO of Train for All Construction and Engineering Academy, and ostensibly we're an independent training provider, and we specialise in construction and engineering predominantly. We started life 15 years ago, or 14 years ago. It's turning into 15 rapidly. Thank you for moving the slide on there, Sharon. And we're on the Row app, and I probably won't cover too much ground that Drew and Sharon have covered, because it's the same sort of spiel, really. We adhere to the same rules. We're on the registers. We governed under Ofsted, and as Drew alluded to, and he's absolutely right, and I think it's more prevalent today in FE than it ever was, and it's certainly been quite at the heart of a lot of independent training providers historically. But the information, advice and guidance is critical to what we do to ensure we get the right people on the right programs, especially that the programs that we're running are predominantly specialist programs as opposed to possibly a generic study program. So that's quite key that we get that right information across. An integral part of that is school visits, one-to-one interviews, whether that be in a sterile environment or whether that be at a training centre. And then through that programme of study, whether it's a traineeship, whether it's sector-based work academy, or whether it's an apprenticeship, there's a lot of pastoral support provided right the way through. Typically, a lot of our young people, well, all people in fact, come with some baggage, and we have to support them with that. Whether it's through being displaced in the workplace, whether it's been displaced in housing, in family situations, in not achieving said criteria at school, GCSEs. So there's always a little bit more work than what people think there's going to be involved with. We work quite closely across the southwest of England, not only in Somerset, Devon, Dorset, but also in Cornwall, and we work closely with the Job Centre, CTEP Plus, and all those listed in front of you now, youth offending teams, schools and colleges. And schools and colleges is really important that we complement one another, we signpost accordingly. There's organisations we're doing a lot of work with and we're having conversations with currently in Cornwall, whether it's the Real Ideas organisation, the Prince's Trust. We work quite closely at the moment with St Petrock's, Reed Partnership, Hayes, Shared Apprenticeships, ITS. So we work with some recruitment companies to allow us to move young people on from either a traineeship or a sector-based work academy into work, whether it's work-based learning or whether it's an apprenticeship. If you could have the next slide, please, Sharon, that'd be great. So ostensibly, the reason we are where we are, so Train for All have rocked up in Cornwall. We've got a sector-based work academy in Red Roof. It's on the middle of a live building site, so real work environment facilities. The building site is the customer is Treweth Council, as part of Cornwall Council. The developer is Vistry Partnerships, which is the Vistry Group, which are made up of Linden Homes, Bovers Homes and Galliford Try. So ostensibly, we've come to Cornwall on the back of our customer, off the back of a client, and off the back of supporting the SMEs. Vistry Partnerships, as most major home builders, whether it be Kia, whether it be EDF Energy or whoever, typically make up about 2 to 5% of the workforce. The rest of the workforce is generally then generated through a supply chain of SMEs. So not only are we there to support the client, the customer, but we're also supporting the supply chain. And by supporting the supply chain, we're feeding them with talent and supporting young people or people coming through for a career change with getting them work ready and moving that through. All our programs are delivered by industry experts, people that have been doing the job a long time. Historically, those that come straight for industry bring us a better mindset and skill set and passion than perhaps people that have been in FE for a long time. So then, as Drew alluded to, we then add the teaching and assessing qualifications according to them and to their subject areas. The curriculums are all developed through what the employers need. Building in our industry, building hasn't changed for hundreds and thousands of years. The products have, the techniques have, but in layman's terms, building hasn't really changed a great deal. Those techniques and those delivery plans have been tweaked to modern day techniques and the way the houses are built. So at this moment in time, use Red Roof as an example. It was a timber frame building, 185 plots going up, 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 beds, 4 beds. So although timber framed is deemed as modern method of construction, you could argue whether it is or it isn't. We was probably doing that 2,000 years ago, but in the eyes of the construction industry, it's modern and more so than traditional. But so we have to be flexible then around our approach into how we develop and train people to support that curriculum and to support those employers. We work with learners from the age of 14 upwards. In Red Roof, they're over 16. Because we're on a live site, and because the live site is a sector-based work academy, through health and safety regulations on that particular site, all learners are over the age of 16. Some of which we're trying to develop a summer school with Rio, with Red Roof School, could be year 11 if they are 16 and over. So that's something that's pending at the moment. The qualifications that we deliver are anything from entry level 1 right through to level 6 management qualifications to allow people to get a black hat and work on site through an MBQ level 6 in site management. The Key Stage 4 link engagement is very strong, predominantly in our head office in Somerset, purely and simply because of our links with the local authority and all the pupil referral units that we deal with there, as well as the schools that feed in. As I've mentioned, we carry out traineeships and apprenticeships across a range of brick, carpentry, property maintenance and welding. There are 4 main trade areas that the supply chain and the customers we deal with want. Functional skills, English and maths and digital skills is embedded into pretty much everything we do, as well as we're always looking to develop those key functional skills across our sector-based work academies, boot camps, our armed forces resettlement, as well as our health and safety courses. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So I think I've probably mentioned some of this already, actually. So I'll give an example of where we are, and I'll just talk use Red Roof and talk about our Cornwall provision at the moment. So currently provision in Red Roof at Togus Farm, and we've been operating there since February, but with a great deal of activity since April. Our first course was 2 weeks called Pathway to Site, and that's where anybody over the age of 19 will attend, and that's a sector-based work academy. The ambition is, after 10 days, those learners then can complete their entry level qualifications in employability skills, get a City and Guilds level 1 in health and safety, prerequisite then to the CSCS test and get the CSCS card. They're then warmed up and ready to get a job, ostensibly. We then introduce them as part of the programme. They get an interview with a recruitment company, because ostensibly in our sector, the supply chain on site want to take these people on, but they typically want to take them on self-employed, because that's the nature of the beast in construction. Most people are self-employed. There's probably a chain of 5 or 6 people self-employed to one another. Now that could be a barrier for employment for some of these young people, because, you know, yesterday they may well have been homeless, today they're doing a training program, and tomorrow they're expected to go self-employed. Hence why we bring recruitment companies into the room, where they can act as an umbrella company to take these young people on and then place them with said employer. That's quite commonplace in construction, and it has been for many years. If they then cut the mustard after 3 months, then the employers tend to take them away from the recruitment company and put them on their own books. Some of those that graduated after 10 days, as they have now rolled into a traineeship. So we've got 2 20-year-old guys who have completed the sector-based work academy programme. They are now able to access the site through having a CSCS card. They're now carrying out work experience opportunities with the supply chain on the site in readiness to move on then to the next phase post traineeship, which would be employment, which could include work-based learning or could include apprenticeship. Typically, all our courses are funded via adult education budget money, AEB, traineeships, sector-based work academies, and apprenticeships. That I think we've got one more slide, and you can see in the photos, some of the photos of the lads. Actually, sorry, Sharon, could you go back one? Yeah, you can see there in the photo, the middle one, that's some of the lads on the last course that that graduated. One lad managed to get 100% in his CSES test. They're all virtually work ready. Those particular guys there are all from St Petrox, actually. So their handling, if choice of a better word, needs to be more. We need a bigger safety net around these guys rather than, let's say, somebody making a career change, or maybe a 16-year-old who's got a good support mechanism at home. They're certainly more, they fall into a larger vulnerable category, but they all want to get into work. They all need a metaphoric gateway to allow that to happen, and we working on the site can make that happen. Last slide now then, Sharon, thank you. So going back to our delivery locations, our headquarters is in Somerset, and we have sites in Devon, Cornwall, Dorset, 2 in Devon, Exeter and Plymouth, and we've another couple of locations in Somerset coming soon. There's a short YouTube video there if you want to follow it at some point when you get your slides through. That's pretty much it from me, and if you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, John. That's brilliant, and it's so good to hear what's going on across Cornwall about the opportunities for those young people, that group of people that you've just been talking about at St Petrox. Really important, the work that you are doing and the work that Drew and the team at Focus are doing, absolutely key, as well as our colleagues in our FE colleges. As we know, it's all about opportunities, it's all about giving people choice, it's always about giving people an opportunity to maximize their potential. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. The last slide is just basically a thank you from me before I end the PowerPoint, which also gives my contact details if people wish to contact me after today's event. So basically, back in the room, here we all are back in the room to say thank you so much for listening. Carrie, is there any questions? Does anybody want to ask anything of myself, John, Drew or Justin?
I haven't seen anything in the chat. If it's all right, we'll just hang on a couple of minutes while we give people that thinking time that they might need to ask a question. I had one. So some of the courses that both Drew and John mentioned are courses that often have a particular appeal to a certain gender, like whether it's care, business admin or construction. And I think a lot of the careers leaders on the call will be really thinking about Gatsby Benchmark 3, which is about promoting gender equality. I can completely understand the challenges with using role models if your groups and cohorts are entirely made up of one gender. And I just wondered if there were any ideas or suggestions or thoughts from you about how you can encourage that gender diversity, or maybe even an example of how you maybe have worked with a school or a college that that looks in that sort of drawing that pipeline from a sort of a diverse young people. I can definitely see that you've got it in terms of social mobility, and I just wondered about that other aspect as well.
So that's a great question, and I know that John is going to jump in here because I know something that you don't know, Carrie. So for example, so a lot of the ITPs, yes, go down are connected with the traditional route, although we're seeing a greater expansion. But I know for a fact that John will say to you on our last call, we actually had one of his female apprentices who's done a fantastic job and who has gone all the way through from a sector-based work academy to a traineeship to an apprenticeship. And she was on the call last time, and she did as Justin did. So actually the quota of male to female, that gender balance, it is changing. Absolutely, it is changing. John, would you agree with me there with regards to seeing more females coming into the sectors?
I would, and again, yeah, there is an increase in our lifetime. It's minimal. And I had this conversation today actually with Reed Partnerships, because we're all guilty of that unconscious bias. The industry I represent, ostensibly construction, is very guilty of that, and it has been for many years, and that isn't going to change overnight. But the same could be said for the care community, where the unconscious bias would be that we wouldn't want necessarily men in early years, or they don't fit into early years as females don't fit into construction. It is changing. It's not going to happen overnight. I think that what I see certainly in construction and engineering, there are a lot more females coming into the roles, and and again, cynically, in construction, the guys need people just to organise them and tell them what to do, and tradesmen are guilty of time management, communication skills, organisational skills, etc., etc. Now, I'm not saying that females fit into that role. If a female comes into our industry that can do the trade as well as organise themselves, communicate well, and plan, brilliant. They will clean up, because it's typically what we're poor at as an industry. We're 30 years behind manufacturing engineering, if I'm honest. So it has got a lot better, and the case study that Sharon was alluding to was exactly that. The young lady was an unemployed sector-based work academy traineeship, apprenticeship, and she's doing a higher level apprenticeship now as an assistant site manager. So it's getting better. It's not gonna, I've got 3 daughters, so I'd like to think the quality was going to be there. It's not as good as we all would like it to be, and I think as professionals we can champion it. And I think within departments of larger businesses where they have a social responsibility department, yes, they can champion it. But when I'm speaking to a 30-year ground worker with mud up to his waist, he won't be championing it. I can tell you that now. He just wants somebody with him to dig a hole. So,
yeah, and I think one of the things, Carrie, sorry, John, to interrupt, but one of the things that we're doing is the work that the Careers Hub does, and in terms of going in and talking and taking with us female apprentices, okay, to talk in schools, the way we are talking more about when we're doing sessions like this. And I know both the ITPs and the colleges have females and males in those sectors where you perhaps traditionally you wouldn't have seen them, and actually really pushing like things like women into STEM or girls into STEM, women into construction, men into caring males. All of these initiatives are absolutely key in breaking down barriers and offering opportunities irrespective of gender, race, belief, in terms of being able to offer people an opportunity to gain a sustainable career, a rewarding career. And I think we're doing a huge amount of work. As John says, more to be done. I see there's some more questions though. Is that Carrie?
Yeah, so we just had a comment from Davina at 12 Point saying thanks very much. I'm going to get in touch with the focus training group. And also Stephanie did have her hand up. If we have time to take one more question, if anyone wants to get in with a third and final question, please pop it in the chat or raise your hand.
Thank you, Carrie.
Carrie, sorry, did you want me to come in with that question or just follow up via email?
Yeah, I saw your hand raised, and yeah, go for it.
If you got, well, I had a visit to Plymouth City College this morning, and they're really embracing what we're trying to do as far as supporting pathways for their students to employers and potential apprenticeships. We are starting apprenticeship opportunities. So we have Cornwall College sort of wanting engagement sort of 2nd of June onwards and that sort of thing. So any way I can help promote that long list of apprenticeships that was shown earlier. We've got a Padlet that's kind of going live around the colleges and schools. Happy to have a sort of an apprenticeship column so the students can kind of view it in another way. we have a youth card app as well, so some major cornerstone employers are on there as well, offering their employability, career paths, apprenticeships and so on opportunities. There's an array of insights and virtual insight days with all sorts of employers. But I'm in the southwest. We talk with Building Greater Exeter, for example, and they're working with some SEND students. So anything I can do, it's all free as far as students and schools and colleges and ITPs are concerned. The employer side of things is slightly different. But anyone that wants to have a conversation about promoting anything you want to do, and it's a hybrid, potentially hybrid model, but we are supporting a lot of schools and colleges that are very concerned of not having face-to-face work experience for Gatsby and so on, especially June, July, and they're obviously going to be using VWEX still. I know some people are still trying to get used to it or don't want any more to do with it, etc. But I think going forward, it's always going to be there. We're having a meeting virtually now, so I think online access is something that we kind of need to. And again, it's about what students want to do. It's not one size fits all. It's what they prefer to utilize, etc. and so on, and we can provide more opportunities with different types of employers. We've just won a contract with the NHS in Cornwall, so we're going to be offering 1-hour discovery workshops for hundreds of students in June, July especially, and then following on from that, virtual insight sessions. And Spaceport Cornwall, again, aerospace, satellite engineering and technology is something that apparently the DFEs have identified as a growing industry, so they are going to be offering some insights too. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Carrie, if that's all the questions, I mean, we will share the slide deck. I will send a PDF across to you and Ruth for circulation to your careers leads. But if there's anything anybody else wants to ask or they want to follow up on, our contact details are on the slide deck. But just to say thank you so much for listening. And we said we weren't going to take all that time, and yet we did.
Thanks so much.
It was great. Thank you.
Sharon, John and Drew, thanks very much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, we hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you, Drew and John, for supporting, and hope everybody got something from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Sharon.
Cheers,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.